Welcome to Hyperbolas practice problem number 1. So you're going to want to make sure you write down the given information and the information we have to find. And one challenge I will give you is I encourage you, after you've written that down, to maybe pause the video and see if you can figure out the answers to all of these questions first, based on the notes that you've taken that you should have out with you while you attempt this problem. So that's a good challenge if you think you can jump right in. If not, you can follow along with me and we'll work on this problem together. Okay, so I'm given a hyperbola and it's asking me for all of these items. So the first thing I want to know is what kind it is. And right away I realize that because x comes first and x is the horizontal axis, that this is in fact a horizontal hyperbola. And I want to make sure I know that ahead of time because it's going to help me draw the correct shape. So horizontal hyperbola. Okay, and that just means that the two parabolas making up the hyperbola will intersect the horizontal axis. The other thing you want to just kind of make a mental note of is that, remember we learned that it was x minus h quantities squared over a squared minus y minus k quantities squared over b squared equals 1, and that was the standard form. So that's going to help us find everything. So the first thing we want to find is our center. And according to the math, the center is going to be the point HK. So in this case, H is going to be a positive 1. K is going to be a negative 2. Okay, so the center is at 1, negative 2. Now, before you go any farther, I always draw the center and then I construct the hyperbola from the center. So I strongly encourage you to draw a picture of this, and I'm going to do that with you. It doesn't have to be to scale, but to kind of see what's going on. Okay, so let's just draw the best picture that we can. The center is 1, 2. So I'm going to go over 1, down negative 2. Here's my center, 1, negative 2. Okay, the next thing it's asking me for, and just cross that off, are the vertices. And the vertices are going to use the letter A. So recall, if A squared, right, in this case is going to equal 4, then doesn't it make sense that A itself is equal to 2? And remember that A was the distance from the center to the vertex. Okay, so think about this, right? If I'm at this point here and I want to go 2 units to the right, think about going 1, 2. That's going to jump me over to the point 3, negative 2. Okay, so and I don't really care how you draw this, I just care that you have the vertex in there, right? So on the right branch, one of the vertices is at 3, negative 2. So let me actually kind of keep track of everything up here. So my center, I said, was 1, negative 2. And one of my vertices is 3, negative 2. But don't forget, I have to find the other one, right? So if A is a distance of 2, and I'm already at 1, where is my other vertex? I have to go to the left 2. So I have to go 1, 2. So that brings me where? That brings me to negative 1, negative 2. So that hopefully makes sense. And again, I'm just going to draw the other branch here. So my vertices are 3, negative 2, and negative 1, negative 2. Okay, now I want to find the co-vertices. Co-vertices use the letter B. I know that B squared is 9, so the B is equal to 3. And the co-vertices, the letter B represents the distance from the center, which is here, up. So let's think about that. I'm going to have to go 3 units up. 1, 2, 3. Where does that bring me? Well, that brings me to the point 1, 1. Okay, because what did I do? I went up 3 units from the negative 2. So I went to negative 1, 0, and then positive 1. And so one of my co-vertices is at the point 1, 1. Now I have to go down this way to get my other one. And so I'm going to go a distance of 3 down from the negative 2. So 1, 2, 3. Where does that bring me? That brings me to 1, negative 5. Okay, so my other co-vertex is at 1, negative 5. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just kind of drawing that out. Another thing to remember is, there's this imaginary like rectangle. You don't really see this drawn too much, but you can know that it's there. And this imaginary rectangle, these co-vertices here, think of it like the midpoint of the length of this rectangle. Okay, now in my checklist, I need to find the foci. So to find the foci, remember it's c squared equals a squared plus b squared, or c equals plus or minus the square root of a squared plus b squared. Okay, so let's just figure that out. Plus or minus. So a squared is 4 plus 9. So c equals plus or minus the square root of 13. Now, that means that to go from the center to the focus point, I have to travel plus the square root of 13 in one direction and minus the square root of 13 in the other. So remember, the foci are going to be here inside the parabola. The foci are always going to lie on the transverse axis. So let's think about the logic of this point, right? So I'm already where? I'm already at, on the x-axis, I'm over 1. So what I want to do is go another square root of 13. So I'm going to be at 1 plus the square root of 13. And I'm still going to be down negative 2 because I have to be in line with my vertex. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And you can leave your answer like that. I actually prefer that to a decimal. Then going this way, right, going from the center, it's going to be 1 minus the square root of 13, comma, negative 2, right? Because I'm going from the center, I'm going minus the square root of 13 to get to this point. So c is the distance from the center to the foci. So I hope that makes sense. And you can imagine this line here is my transverse axis, right? It's going through the actual parabola. There are two parabolas, but hyperbola. Okay, so I have that. Now I'm trying to find the slope of the asymptotes. So I'm going to do this, and you can just sort of draw them in. You don't have to. But the slope, because I am using a horizontal hyperbola, and I know that I have b on the the vertical axis and a on the horizontal, it's plus or minus b over a. So the slope is going to be plus or minus 3 over 2 because I'm doing b over a. And so the only other thing I have to find, and these are just pretty minor things, the length of the conjugate axis, length of the transverse axis. So the transverse axis is actually going to be the axis here that's going through the hyperbola. And actually, I'm actually going to cross this out. This is something you're never going to have to find. So let's just actually skip that. Sometimes you will be asked to find the length of a conjugate axis. And that's just going to be this distance here, this whole distance here, okay? So I have to think about, okay, what's that distance? It's going to be a distance of 6. So that's going to be 6 because I know it's 3 from the center up and down. It's more important that you really can identify the conjugate and transverse axis. You're not usually asked to find this. So I'm just going to cross that out. So I hope that was helpful. And in the next video, I will try to work out a problem where we have a vertical hyperbola.